Hi,
All right, Joyce,
everyone.
take it away.
Hi, everyone. Again, this is Joyce Nichols, and we're really glad you could join us. You'll see on the screen that picture of Cindy and myself, and Cindy is the owner of Training Solutions. We're both certified consultants, Platinum ACT partners, and Cindy is an ACT Premier trainer. So welcome to our Easy as 1, 2, 3 Integrate ACT and Excel Part 2. In last month's webinar, we showed you how to import data from Excel into ACT, how to export that data, and analyze the data with subtotals and with pivot tables. We sort of ran out of time. There was just so much to cover. We ran out of time to do a really in-depth on pivot tables, and we had such an overwhelming response to learning about pivot tables, so we've decided to add a part 2. Again, pivot tables are going to analyze your data in various ways. ACT is a great tool for collecting the data, and then we're going to use Excel to analyze the data. I'm using ACT Premium, but you have different options with ACT, and everything that I'm showing you today with the pivot tables is available in a different version. So there's ACT Pro, Premium, Premium Cloud, Premium Plus, and Cloud Plus. Different options for your business. If you have any questions about which option would be the best for your business, just give us a call or email us, and we'd be glad to go over and analyze your business and which version of ACT would be best for you. If you have questions today, please post those to the questions box, and we'll either answer them on the call, or if we run out of time to answer the questions, we'll be glad to email you with answers to those questions. In a few days, you'll be sent a recording of the webinar so you can watch it again, and feel free to share it with your colleagues, because I think there's something for everyone who uses ACT, something for everyone in this particular webinar. Again, please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have questions about the different options with ACT. So let's go ahead and get started with our pivot tables. So in ACT, we're going to first look at the history list. The history list, if you're not using it, it's really a valuable tool in ACT. The history list shows you all of the histories that have been created in the database. So with the filters on the history list, you'll see that you can filter for particular dates, and you can filter for different types of activities and for different users. So I see, if I'm looking at all dates, this is the demo database, so I don't have a lot of data, so I'm using all dates. And you can see at the bottom there are 196 histories. So I see this in a line item, but how do I make some sense? If I'm the sales manager, how do I really analyze and make some sense of what are my sales reps doing? That's where you can use pivot tables. Now, what I've done is I've already created the pivot table because I think it's going to help you to see the end result, what the pivot table does, and that way, as we create the pivot table, you'll have a better understanding of the steps that we're going through. So I'm going to go to Excel, and I have a pivot table here. So again, I've exported the data, and I'm going to show you each of these steps. Right now, it's just the end result, so you can get an idea of what the pivot table does. So again, here are my histories, my 200 histories, and now I've made some sense of them. So as a sales manager, I can see each of my sales reps' histories they have created in the particular time period that I've chosen. Let me give you an example of how one of our sales managers, whose name is Pat, how he uses this. Every Monday morning at 8:30, Pat has a sales meeting. So prior to the meeting, he goes to ACT, he goes to the history list, and he filters for last week. He exports it to Excel, and I'll show you how to do that if that's something that's new for you. And he creates his pivot table. So as he meets with his salesperson, he can determine are my sales reps being efficient? Are they being productive? Are they using their time wisely? So I can see, for example, Chris had 36 meetings. Ernst had a marketing call. Well, how'd that marketing call go? So as I meet with Ernst, I can visit with him about that marketing call. Allison had 14 meetings. So as he's meeting with Allison, he can talk with her. How did your meetings go? What do you think? Are they going to be, potential sales? To see the detail of the meeting, it's very easy. A lot of people who use pivot tables don't realize that you can actually drill down on these totals. So I'm going to double click on this number, and I can see the detail. What went into making up these this count? So I can see exactly what Allison has done. I can see the company and the contact Allison met with, and I can visit with her as far as how did those meetings go. So it's a great way to, again, see what your sales are doing. Are they using their time wisely? I can also change the way that I'm viewing this data. So the word pivot means to turn. And so Excel came out with this word pivot table because you can turn your data, you can pivot your data to view it in different ways. And again, I'm going to show you how to do all of this. So I'm going to move Record Manager. And now this gives me a different way to view the data. I can view it by calls, marketing calls, letters sent. So here's my total. There were 10 total calls. And then I can break it down to see the individual sales reps. I'm going to take that back. And then I'm going to show you how to use filters. So maybe as a sales manager, I'm meeting with Chris. Well, I don't need to see my other reps. So I'm just going to take a look at Chris. And then I can meet with Chris and discuss with them. And I can easily see, these are called slicers. And again, I'm going to show you how to create these. When I filter for Chris, I can easily see he didn't make any marketing calls. He didn't leave any messages. Perhaps I'm going to clear that filter, and I want to see everyone who had a meeting. So all I do is click Meeting Held, and that shows me everyone who had a meeting. And again, I can drill down on these. A lot of things, what Pat likes to do, the sales manager, what he likes to do is look at charts to compare what the salespeople are doing, compare them to each other. So I can easily take this information. I can click on the Analyze tab, and I can take a look at a pivot chart. And now I have, again, this could be in a different worksheet, but now I have a chart that reflects, compares what each of my sales reps are doing. So again, that gives you a taste of what a pivot table can give you. So let's now see how we can create that pivot table. I'm going to go back to Act. Now, when you export, you'll want to make sure that you have the fields on the your history list. And I'll show you how to customize those fields just in a few minutes. So I choose my date range. All I need to do is one click to export the data to Excel. And remember that any list view in Act can be exported to Excel. So this just takes a few seconds to export. And when Excel is open, it goes faster. So I can see that my export is finished. So I'm going to go to this information. I think you'll be surprised at how easy it is to create pivot tables. I'm going to click just somewhere in my history list. And remember, we have about 200 of these, and we want to, make some sense of that. On the Insert tab in Excel, in the Tables group, you see Pivot Table. And again, the tooltip says easily arrange and summarize complex data in a pivot table. So I'm going to click on that pivot table and notice that my selection, my marching ants, has selected the correct data. I'm going to choose OK. And this is what just a blank pivot table looks like. So notice the text says, to build a report, choose fields from the Pivot Table Field List pane. This is the field list pane where you actually build the table. Notice, because we're in a pivot table, we have the pivot table tools contextual tabs, and there's two contextual tabs, the Analyze tab and the Design tab. One common mistake that new users to PivotTables make is they accidentally or inadvertently click out of the pivot table. Notice my cell selection, I'm right in the pivot table. If I select a cell that's not in the pivot table, notice I lose my contextual tabs. So remember to always click in the pivot table. Now let's go ahead and start building our table. The boxes that you'll use, this shows you all of the fields in your export. These three boxes, the columns, the values, and the rows, are the three boxes that you'll be using when you build the pivot table. What do I want to see as a column? What do I want to see as a row? And this intersecting point is where I'm going to create my calculations. So I'm going to start out, and again it says drag fields between the areas below. I'm going to start out by putting the record manager as a row. I'm just going to drag that down, and now I'm starting to build my pivot table. I want to see by type. So I now see by type. You know, I think that was made a mistake. I really want to see by result. So it's so easy. If you want to remove a field, all you do is hover over the field and your four-arrowed mouse is your move mouse shape. I'm just going to pull that off, and let's put result down instead. So very easy to change. Now, my intersecting point between the values, that's where I'm going to place anything that needs a calculation. So I'm going to drag down my results. There I am, it's finished. My counts are created for me by Excel. So let's take a look and see what else we can do. On the Design tab, you have pivot table styles. So this would be like just regular Excel or Word or PowerPoint, where you have different styles for your pivot tables. I'm going to go ahead and choose, I think I'll choose this medium blue, the light blue, I guess it's light blue. I maybe want to see banded rows. I can see banded columns, again, if I wanted to make it more readable. You also have in the layout different ways to view. Again, you can just take a look at these on your own. Different ways to view your totals. What a lot of our users like is in the report layout, the default is compact form. You can look at it this way and show it in outline form if you think that's more readable for you. Again, these are all personal preference things. So again, as I'm meeting with my reps, if I want to see any detail of these, all I need to do is to double click, and that will show me, and I can visit with my reps then. Again, and this is what Pat does every Monday morning, is he uses this pivot table. Let's report a little bit differently. Let's take this record manager, and I'm going to pivot. I'm going to move it. So now I'm just dragging it up, and now I'm reporting the data a little bit differently. So I'm seeing my total calls completed, and then I can break it down by the individual reps. Again, if I want to create a pivot chart, all I do is click Analyze. On the Tools group, I'm going to create Pivot Chart. And again, I decide my chart, and now I have my pivot chart, my pivot table. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that out. Typically, you'll want that in a new worksheet. And I want to show you something called slicers. So slicers is something that came out, I believe, in 2013, Excel 2013. And this is a great way to kind of, really what it does is it slices and dices your information. On the Analyze tab, in the Filter group, I'm going to insert a slicer. The Insert Slices box displays, and I decide what fields do I think I may want to filter? Well, I think I probably want to filter on record manager, and I probably want to filter on result. So I'm going to select each one of these, choose OK, and now I have these neat slicers. I'm just going to move these up so they are together. And this one, I'm not seeing everything. Notice I have a scroll bar. Well, I want to take advantage of my real estate down here. So I'm going to drag this down so I can see all of my histories that were created. Again, perhaps I'm meeting with Chris. So again, I'll just click on Chris, and there's the detail about Chris. To clear a filter, I can click on the Clear Filter button. If I want to select multiple people, I can click the first one, hold the Control key down, and I can filter for multiple people. Again, I'm going to clear the filter. And maybe I want to see everyone who met with clients last week. So I'm going to filter for meeting held, and I can see all of the meetings that were held. These two slices interact with each other. So if I want to see who made a marketing call, and marketing calls are important, I can click on marketing calls. Oh, I can see Ernst is the only sales rep that made a marketing call. So I might need to find out why these others aren't making marketing calls. So again, after we collected the data, and now we're using Excel to analyze the data. And remember that you can always create a pivot chart as well. We'll go back here, and again, just clear the filter, and that's how easy it is to clear filters. Let's take a look at how you can use the opportunity list to create pivot tables. So I'm going back to Act, and I'm going to Opportunities. Now, if you're not using opportunities, that's a really powerful feature in Act to keep track of your potential sales and also information about those sales. So in the detail view, you might have certain fields that you need to keep track of with the opportunity. So we can easily create new fields that will show you the data you need to collect about that particular opportunity. Our company is called CH Tech One. And in our company, we sell products, but we also sell service contracts. So when I export and analyze my opportunities, I want to focus on just my open opportunities. And again, if this was actually your database, you would filter for a particular time. We're going to use all dates. I'd like you to take a look at our sales process. So for our CH Tech One sales process, these are the stages that we go through. Again, we may or may not go through each of these, but these are the different stages that could possibly be in that sales. We also sell service contracts. So we have a service process, and within that we have the following stages. So I want to see all of my sales process, so I'm going to choose all. Now, one of the things that you'll want to do when you export, and we mentioned this a little bit earlier when we looked at histories, you want to make sure the fields that you want to report on are on your list view. So I'd like to see products because I want to know how my products are selling. So I'm going to customize my columns to put the products on. Every list view has the button for customizing columns, so I'm going to click that. And in the left pane, you'll see the available fields for the particular view in which you're in. The pane on the right are all of the fields that are currently on the list in which you're in. I want to see my products. So I'm going to go down to Product, and I'm going to add that, and I want to choose OK. Notice at the bottom, I have 214 opportunities, and now I want to analyze those. So again, with one click in the Excel button, I'm going to export my opportunities. And in just a few seconds, those will be exported. And we'll take a look at how you can use a pivot table for your opportunities. It's really a great way to analyze your sales, to see how your products are selling, to see how your sales reps are doing, and to really work with them to increase your sales. So what's really neat about the opportunity export is ACT knows that pivot tables are so valuable with your sales that it automatically creates. Again, I have 200 and some opportunities. ACT automatically creates a pivot table for you. You don't have to do any work. It's done for you. Maybe you want to fine tune it to report on a few different things, but it's created for you already, as is the pivot chart. So here's my pivot chart. Again, the pivot chart is dependent on the pivot table. So however you're viewing your pivot table, your pivot chart automatically changes to fit the view of your pivot table. So I can immediately see that in the time period that I chose, that ACT has, that Allison has 70 sales. Well, it looks like maybe I need to work with Fred and Melissa on their sales. So again, it gives me a great picture. But let's change that again. Remember, let's change that and view it a little bit differently. Maybe I want to see how my products are. So again, I'm going to drag down product. I'll drag off record manager. So I can see that I'm selling 13 mini core replacements. I've got 44 service contracts in the works. So again, I can drill down, see who the record manager is, and visit with them. How can we finalize these sales contracts? So I can easily report on product. And notice with the opportunity pivot chart, again, this would be fine-tuned, but it also reflects that. I might want to see in my pivot chart by record manager, and I want to see the process. Now remember, we had a sales process and a service process. So now I can see the service process, the products for each sales manager. Again, so many different ways to report and analyze your opportunities. There are also ways that you can create calculated fields. For instance, if you want to, if you want to create a commissions field, commissions, you can create calculated fields, and you also can create running totals. So besides doing counts and sums, you can do averages, you can do minimums, maximums, and you can also compare quarters. Like maybe you want to compare first quarter to second quarter, or maybe you want to compare your sales reps quarters to each other. So again, so many ways that you can really drill down and analyze your sales opportunities. So we hope that you can see the different ways that you can use ACT pivot tables to analyze your data. Again, ACT is a great way to collect the data, and then we can do further analysis with the pivot table. Our next session is June 7th, and that is your database is only as good as the data. That's going to be really a valuable session for you because your database needs to have consistent data. So you're going to learn how to pinpoint that data that's not consistent. You're going to learn how to clean up duplicates. We're going to learn how to eliminate data that is not necessary, how to compress and reindex your database, how to just to maintain it so you have a clean running database so you can get accurate reports out of it. And on July 12th, the topic is to be determined. We always welcome, you are the ones that are out using ACT every day, so we always welcome feedback. So if you have certain things you'd like to see covered, please let us know, and we can see if we can incorporate that. Our contact information is listed on the screen. So again, please feel free to reach out to us if you'd like more help with pivot tables. Again, this is just kind of an overview of what the pivot tables can do. So please reach out to us for any of your training needs or any questions that you have about ACT. And thanks for joining our webinar.